Hello and welcome to VOW, Voices of Wisdom, the show that might not be for everybody, but everybody needs to watch this show. And I'm your host, Brenda Simmons. VOW is generally about relationships, and they're topics that are informative, educational, and sometimes controversial. Today we're going to talk about domestic violence. And I'm going to read a few statistics and some information regarding domestic violence. Domestic violence, also known as domestic abuse, spousal abuse, battery, family violence, and intimate partner violence, also known as IPV, is defined as a pattern of abusive behaviors by one partner against another in an intimate relationship, such as marriage, dating, family. Domestic violence, so defined, has many forms, including physical aggression and assault, like hitting, kicking, biting, shoving, restraining, slapping, throwing objects, or threats of sexual abuse, emotional abuse, controlling or domineering, intimate stalking, and passive covert abuse such as neglect or economic depriving. Alcohol consumption and mental illness can also be comorbid with abuse and present additional challenges in eliminating domestic violence. Domestic violence and abuse is not limited to obvious physical violence. Domestic violence can also mean endangerment, criminal coercion, kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, trespassing, harassment, and stalking. And before I introduce my guests, I also want to give you a few statistics. Every 9 seconds, I said every 9 seconds in the U.S., a woman is assaulted or beaten. Around the world, at least 1 in every 3 women will have been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused during her lifetime. Most often, the abuser is a member of her own family. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women. More than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined. Studies suggest that up to 10 million children witness some forms of domestic violence annually. Nearly 1 in 5 teenage girls who have been in a relationship with a said boyfriend threaten violence or self-harm if presented with a breakup. I'm sure all of us have heard of that. Every day in the U.S., more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. 92% of women survived listed reducing domestic violence and sexual assault as their top concern. Domestic violence victims lose nearly 8 million days of paid work per year, in the U.S. alone, the equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs. Based on reports from 10 countries, between 55% and 95% of women who have been physically abused by their partners have never contacted non-governmental organizations, shelters, or police for help. The cost of intimate partner violence in the U.S. alone exceeds $5.8 billion per year. $4.1 billion are the direct medical and health care services, while productivity loses account for nearly $1.8 billion. Last statistics. Men who are children witness their parents' domestic violence were twice as likely to abuse their own wives, their sons of non-violent parents. But today, we have a survivor of domestic violence, and her name is Nichole Watkins. Welcome, my darling.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing fine.
Good. What I want you to start is I want to start with you telling me what happened when you were in the hospital. I want you to start there.
Okay, after the attending physician performed a CAT scan, they told me they saw a tumor that was resting on my main artery. Mm-hmm. From that moment, the first thing I could do is think about my children.
Okay.
I have 5 children. Mm-hmm. After that, I turned to my husband and asked him to take care of my children. But I thought to myself, this man was literally beating me to death. Mm. Of course, I didn't say anything to him, mm-hmm. but that was what I thought at the moment. And the reason why I thought that is because there was one incident when we had a verbal argument, but it turned into a physical altercation. Mm-hmm. And I used to fight this man. And when you said something about not turning to the authorities,
right.
I didn't. Not on every occasion we had some type of issue. And on this moment, that particular incident, he hit me, he pushed me, whatever he did. Mm-hmm. I hit him back. Mm-hmm. That made it worse. Mm-hmm. Because when I hit him back, that one hit made me fall, but I fell on the palm of my hands. I fell, and he started pounding on the back of my head.
With his fists or his feet?
With his fists. Mm-hmm. I didn't go to work the next day because my head was swollen. On my left side, everything is on whatever's going on or was going on was on my left side, and that's where he hit me. Mm-hmm. Swollen, it was painful, everything. Mm-hmm. And that is the moment when I said, enough. Mm-hmm.
How long did you go through this domestic violence?
This May would have made it 8 years. So it was years.
8 years.
Mm-hmm. Years.
Was there any signs before, you were married to this gentleman before he abused you, or it started happening after you married him? After the marriage. It was after the marriage. So it was no signs of abuse prior to that?
No,
he loved you, huh?
Perfect gentleman.
Perfect. Oh, okay.
But
okay.
When I got pregnant with my first, I have 5 children, the last 2 are for him. Mm-hmm. He said that it better be a boy. Oh. And I said, whatever God puts there. So first of all, it's already there. Mm-hmm. Whatever God puts there is what I'm going to have. The main thing is a healthy baby.
Right.
It better be a boy. Mm. And I was like, something's not right. Mm. But I wanted my marriage to work.
Why'd you want your marriage to work? Is that something you believed in? That's something that...
Something I believed in. Something I wanted. Mm-hmm. He seemed like he was the perfect mate. Mm-hmm.
Might I ask, how long had you dated him? How long did you know a little about him? And I'm saying all these specifically, Nichole, not to put you on the spot, but as you know, I want the audience to hear the story, because I know there's millions of women out there who need to hear this story, and you need to do something about it. Go ahead. So you saw any signs, or did you know anything? How long did you date him before you got married to him?
We met at the gym.
Okay.
After, talking on the phone a couple of times or whatever and meeting up, he made it known to me that he wasn't here legally. He came on a boxing team.
Okay.
He had overstayed his visa.
Okay.
So I would say 3-4 months after dating, we agreed to get married.
Okay.
I said he seems like he's a nice...
How many days?
Yeah, 3-4 months.
Okay, 3 or 4 months.
3 to 4 months.
Okay.
I would say close 3.
Okay.
People say, yeah, he seems like he's a nice guy. I thought so. It really was how I felt about him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then I would say sometime into my pregnancy, little signs. And then I had spoken to his aunt. She made me aware of his mother and his father's marriage, the type of marriage they had, and his father used to abuse the woman, the wife also.
So the aunt told you that before you got married? Or was it after?
I can't remember when she said it.
But she was trying to warn you.
And his sister also, sister abroad.
Okay.
She said, Nikki, are you sure this is what you want? And I said, yeah, but the way she said it made me, it made me question myself, but not to the point not to marry him because I still married him. But I said, and I turned to him and I said, why did your sister ask me that? And he said, I don't know why. She said, okay, all I have to say is, I hope you're happy with what you get.
Big warning, huh?
I didn't take heed.
Didn't take heed. So that's one thing before we move on. That's one thing I want to make a point of. What is it that we do as women that we don't take heed? Is it this love thing that we do? That overpowers us more than us being wise? I mean, what is it, that we can help other women who's watching this show take heed to? We have to learn from our mistakes, and sometimes we don't, sometimes we do. But what do you think made you continue to just go ahead and marry him or stay in that without, warning from his aunt and warning from his sister?
I would say my reason was because I didn't have a relationship with my father.
Okay. And how important you think that is?
Very important. But as I grew, I realized it didn't matter. Because my father is who kept me here through my operation. And after I came out, or before I asked him to leave the house, I told him, I love myself more than I love you. And that's what we as women have to learn to do. Love ourselves no matter what.
Yes. And I think that's probably the main reason why sometimes we feel that the abuse happens that like we deserve it or we don't feel we can do better. But I want to get back just real quick a little bit about your relationship with your dad, because I think that's another key component that, we talked about. We've heard a lot of times about how, sons need their fathers, But I'm here to say that I believe that perhaps women need their dads, girls need their dads almost as much or more than, because that's their first male relationship. And if they don't have a great relationship with their dad, that's kind of what they go by their lives by when they have a relationship with other men. So by you not having a relationship with your dad, you had probably, it's almost like not a basis to relate to how a man's supposed to treat you.
Exactly.
Or treat us. I'm going to put myself into this because been there, done that.
Exactly what it is.
Got a couple of T-shirts. So continue to talk about your reason for staying. Just continue to go back on that.
Also because I had the baby. I was pregnant, and I told him I didn't want any more children. After I got pregnant, I said, okay, marriage, pregnant, family. That's the way it's supposed to be. Although I wasn't raised like that, which is why I stayed. He knew it. So because he knew I desperately wanted that family environment.
Yes. Did you, another point I want, maybe this might not be related to your situation, but sometimes men are very keen to see weak women or women that are vulnerable. So would that be something maybe that he saw, or that you in your relationship, or you're dating him or conversating, that he might have been able to pick up? Because sometimes we talk too much about our stuff. Would that happen to do maybe with this situation or not?
Definitely.
Okay.
The 3 children that I had prior to marrying him, he knew that their father wasn't in the picture as he should have been. So pretty much he scoped out. I didn't have a father. I didn't have a bigger brother. I have a younger brother. And nor my children's father was in the picture. So that I was like easy prey. So he knew how he was going to go about, I guess, his future with me.
And that's a whole nother important issue that I want to bring up, is that, besides the fact that we don't feel good about ourselves and we don't feel that, we deserve better, then we get to this point where, we're set up. It's like, we're like little sheep, the fox is looking for the sheep, and the first one they can get, they're going to eat them up. So as you begin to continue in this relationship, how did it progress? I'm just curious, how did it progress, the abuse, the domestic violence?
It started out as verbal.
Okay.
First, I was a phenomenal woman, according to him. Well, I know I am.
Absolutely.
And then he broke it down.
That's another key point that I want you to repeat again, if you don't mind.
I am a phenomenal woman, but he tried to break me down, but he didn't.
And how did he do that? Give us some just small points of how he tried to do that. Was it verbal, saying things to you verbally?
Verbally, physically.
Give us some examples of verbally what he would say to you to start bringing you down.
You have 3 kids. Well, I met you with 3 kids. Now you have 4. Who's going to take you with 4 children? I attended college, didn't finish. His thing was, an educated fool is the worst fool.
Oh, that's what he used to say?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
So because I had more education than him, it intimidated him. I used to ask him, he wasn't the sharpest person. But who am I to judge? I helped him out. He used to tell me, like I said, the worst fool is an educated fool.
So he used to say that to you?
Yeah. When I asked him at what level did he stop going to school, he never answered me. What he did was grow angry. So I used to leave it alone. But I found one of his writing assignments after he left the house. In the writing assignment, it said 3rd grade. He didn't finish 3rd grade. So,
wow.
Yes. Ignorance triggers violence.
Could you repeat that one more time?
Ignorance triggers violence. That's what I have to say. Now, as far as the physical part, it went from a smack when I was pregnant with my 5th one, to punches, whatever else he felt like doing. And he once told me it got to the point where he would just hit me because he could do it. It got easier. My supervisors, everyone around me saw and told me, Nikki, if he hits you once, he's going to do it again. He did anger management, the course, 9 months, 8 months.
Why did he do anger management?
Because the courts ordered it, because I had no protection. It was a stay away. He was out of the house.
So let me just bring that point in. So it was at one point you did call the police on him, or how did that happen?
And that was after the punch in the back of my head.
Oh, that was after that one. Okay, but prior to that, had you ever called the police on him? Have you ever?
I would say no, because when I had spoken to my aunt about him at the time beating on my 5-year-old, I told him that I wanted to kill him.
Okay, now you're really getting to me now. Now you're going to tell me he was beating on your 5-year-old. Not just you, but your 5-year-old as well. Okay, breathe 2, 3, 4.
I'm good.
Okay, so you're saying when he beat on your 5-year-old, that's when you finally did call?
Yes.
Okay. But I think it's interesting to make a point. Like I said, we talking here. You didn't call when he was beating you, but you called when he was beating your child. And I know how it is with mamas. You don't beat on my children. They just don't do that. But it's just interesting, and the point I want to make here is that you didn't call when he was beating on you, but you called when he was beating on your son or your child. So when you called, what happened? What happened with that?
They came. He left. He ran to his mother.
So who came? The police came?
Police.
Okay. So he ran to his mother because he knew you called?
Yes.
He saw you when you called?
He knew they were coming, because I guess he overheard us, my children and I, speaking about it.
Okay.
So he packed. That's another thing he would do. He would pack. If I didn't place his food in front of him at the dinner table or whatever would cause him to get angry, he would pack and run home to mommy.
Oh, that's nice. But then he'd come on back to Nichole.
But the bad thing about it, I let him come back. Or I would even call him and say, because I wanted that family environment. That's why I think I did what I did.
Okay, that's another point that I'm going to make then. So we're going to go back again to you said that you didn't have the father figure in your life. Was that something, because that's another key, I think. You didn't have that family environment when you were growing up? Did you not have that family environment when you were growing up, or you had it and you desired it? Because sometimes it works both ways. Sometimes it's that you didn't have that family environment, so you wanted it, so you do anything you can to get it, or you had it, so you want to duplicate it. So what was it in your situation?
When I say family, I had I was raised by my grandmother and my mother.
Okay.
A male role model wasn't involved. So that's what I mean by family.
Got you. And that's the point I was trying to make, that you wanted that family. I mean, I think it's just a desire for all of us to have that family. The mom and the father and the children, the white picket fence and the dog, that's just something that I think we just inertly desire, But to go to the extreme, though, to allow yourself to be beaten just to have that, goes back again to about how you felt about yourself. I don't think going to that extreme to have a family, I think is more than that. It has to be more than that. But let's go back again to after you called the police and because of him being your son, or your daughter, whoever, your son. The other point I want to make with that too, before we get off the air, is the effect it has on children. Now, what do you think? I mean, how old were your children? I mean, your children now, you have 5 children. It's been going on for 8 years. So how do you think this affected your children? Your oldest is how old?
19.
19. So she was there since she was 11, seeing all of this. Mm-hmm. Then you had children down, the ages down. So how do you think this affected your children?
They grew very serious. They no longer were children. Because they were now protecting their mother. My now 15-year-old, 2 weeks after he left, he told me that he wanted to kill him in his sleep. And they laugh again. So I tell him to enjoy life, because it is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
But it did affect them. But they're learning to.
How are they in therapy? Are you just talking to them? Are you praying with them? I mean, because I think it's so key, because we don't have time to talk about my little story too, because I've been through domestic violence as well. But I just do know that the importance of taking that time and really, really talking to your children about the situation, because, I remember actually going to my children and asking them to forgive me for what I allowed them to see or what I allowed them to go through, because that resentment can really carry on and sometimes they repeat. They repeat the same thing. It's almost like they've seen the horror of it, but then they turn around and repeat it. So how do you think they're coming out of it, Nichole?
Gradually. I've reached out to counselors, but I'm on a waiting list. Let me put it that way. But what I do, I try and get them to go out and keep them in a positive circle.
That's great.
Around people that can show them what life has to offer. Like I said, how beautiful life is. This is where I am right now.
That's important.
And when you said how I felt guilty, yes, and it's like as a mother, I didn't protect them. Because I allowed them to see what I went through, and because although I may have taken the blunt of it, but it still happened to them.
Absolutely.
So I felt guilty. Yes, I do pray with them. Like I said, and most of all, I try and keep them in a positive circle. That's all I can do.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And the thing that I'm going to say to you, and I feel tears coming, and I'm hoping this is not going to happen on this show, but it just might, and whatever. The thing that is so important that I'm going to share with you, Nichole, is you have to forgive yourself. Because God is a forgiving God. And I went through that process where I had to forgive myself. And it took me really a little time because I felt like, I did so much damage, not only to my children, but even to myself. But because he is such a forgiving God, you have to go on knowing that God has forgiven you. Mm-hmm. And you already sound like you're doing the positive thing and setting the atmosphere for your children, which is the best thing that you're doing. And I just know that this show is going to be a blessing to somebody that's going to watch this. And if you are in domestic violence or you're in a situation like this, you need to get out of it. Call the police. They have a lot of places you can go to get out of the situation because you deserve better. And Nichole, I thank you for being so brave.
Thank you.
And you are a survivor, a powerful survivor. And you're wonderfully and you're beautifully made. And I know that someone's going to see this show and you're going to continue to be able to be a blessing to somebody else and let them know, don't stay there. Go, and tell them the reason. Tell them your testimony because, those things, not everybody's going to heed to it, but somebody will. Mm-hmm. So I just really want to thank you for your honesty, you being open here, and you're going to be fine, and so are your children.
Thank you. I know.
It's wonderful. It's a new day. Wow. Again, if anybody's watching this show and you are in domestic violence situation, call somebody today. This is Brenda. This is VOW, Voices of Wisdom. Have a wonderful day.